Hi, welcome back. So in this video today I am going to be looking at the effect of your sort of posture and how sort of good your postural alignment is, the effect of that on the abdominal organs and on the sort of process of detoxification within your body. Because I talk a lot with massage about how it helps with the detoxification process, and but obviously if your posture is really bad, then actually that could still be damaging to how your body gets rid of all this waste material. So in basic terms, maintaining an upright posture is essential in terms of optimizing your health and in terms of the functioning of not only your muscles and joints, but all of your body's systems. If we look at the sort of forces that are involved with us maintaining good posture, obviously we've got the gravitational force, which kind of pulls us down towards the centre of the earth. But then we've got the ground reaction force that opposes that, which pushes us up away from the centre of the earth. So you've got these two forces that basically keep us on firm footing. The balance of these opposing forces basically means that our bodies can easily hold themselves upright without too much effort, and this is known as physiological efficient posture, or PEP. So it's the ideal posture that we want to maintain that optimal health and functioning of all of our body's systems. Now, if we suffer from any kind of prolonged physical or emotional stress, injury or trauma, this will cause something called allostasis, which is basically where the body has to work much harder to restore the balance in the body and in all the systems of the body, and work harder to maintain that upright posture, that PEP. So as sports therapists, we assess clients, we assess, whether they have this PEP or whether there are postural issues that obviously then could be impacting on how a certain bodily system works or how the muscles function, etc. And we do this assessment really by we look at the client and use imaginary lines, which help us to look for various sort of anatomical imbalances. So for example, we want to make sure that if we drew a midline down the client's body, that both sides of the body would be symmetrical and look equal. Or we want to ensure that the head, the shoulders and the hips are all parallel. There's not like a lateral pelvic tilt or things like that. So the question is, when we find these issues and when a client doesn't have this physiologically efficient posture, what impact does that have on the body's ability to detoxify itself and get rid of these waste products? And what impact does that also have on those abdominal organs? So if we look at how toxins are excreted from the cells and eventually from the body, they follow a very specific route through the body, which obviously bypasses some of those abdominal organs. So obviously when there are toxins in a cell, they then get transported into the lymph fluid, which then, by the sort of lymphatic circulation, it then gets transported into the blood circulation, which means that it gets passed on through the liver, through the gallbladder, in the bile, which is excreted by the gallbladder. And the bile is there are sort of components of the bile, bilirubin and biliverdin, which actually give your poo whatever colour it has. And then from the bile into the bowel, and then through the rectum, and it's excreted out in your poo. But if there's a problem at any one of these stages, for example, due to postural misalignment, then what happens is that the toxins will accumulate and be unable to leave the cells. And so the whole body's system kind of gets backed up, and that's when problems start to arise. So if this postural misalignment isn't corrected, then what happens is that the large abdominal muscles, sometimes the lats, the psoas, which is one of those hip flexors, and also the diaphragm, will start to compensate for the absence of that physiologically efficient posture. This compensation will then place additional strain on the posture and on the overall detoxification system, which can result not only in myofascial and mechanical dysfunctions, but also neurological. And this impacts not only the muscles and the joints, but also the functioning and positioning of the diaphragm, of all those abdominal organs, due to changes in the angle of the ribs because of, how the diaphragm is sitting. Pelvic tilt, which is one of the big things that we look out for as sports therapists, will further affect the position of those abdominal organs, because the pelvis actually supports those internal organs. It's like if you look at the pelvic cavity, it's like a big bowl, and it supports not only those pelvic organs, but also the bowels and the abdominal organs that sit on top of that. And so if you get these sort of myofascial issues, neurological issues, and if you get postural things such as pelvic tilt, which is affecting the positioning of all of these organs, which therefore affects how they function and how they're able to process those toxins. This is actually called visceroptosis, and we're going to talk a bit about that now. Now, visceroptosis is actually also quite common in Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, which is a form of hyperflexibility, hypermobility. And if that's something that is applicable to you, then I have done a previous video on Ehlers-Danlos, so do take a look at that. But so when these abdominal organs, which are known as the viscera, when they're out of position, it's much more difficult for them to work together as a system efficiently. And so obviously this is then going to affect the detoxification process. And we can look at each stage of that detoxification process when I was talking about the cells, the lymph, the blood. And we can look at each stage and see how, this postural misalignment can affect that part of the detoxification process. So that's what we're going to do now. Okay, so first off, let's look at the first stage when those toxins move from the cells into that lymph fluid. So one of the sort of issues associated with visceroptosis is that it causes aortic hiatus constriction, which basically restricts the thoracic lymphatic duct function. Now, the thoracic lymphatic duct is responsible for, it's the main sort of part of that lymphatic circulation, which kind of works on behalf of those, all the sort of abdominal organs. And it's responsible for pumping lymph fluid back to the heart so that it can be mixed with the blood circulation, which is the next stage of the detoxification process. So if that's restricted, then obviously the system backs up. Also, it's through diaphragmatic movement when we breathe that this thoracic lymphatic duct is able to move and sort of pump the lymph fluid through. So if the PEP, if that physiologically efficient posture isn't maintained, then, what happens is that it's not possible to do that deep diaphragmatic breathing due to the visceroptosis and due to the altered position of the diaphragm. And so the lymph flow, which is the first stage in this detoxification process, will be restricted. And those toxins won't reach the blood circulation quite as efficiently. Now, if we look at the blood circulation at that stage, visceroptosis will also affect the inferior vena cava and the caval hiatus of the diaphragm, which means that when we breathe in, the inferior vena cava doesn't dilate as much as it should in order to allow blood flow into the atrium of the heart so that it's pumped, back around the body. And venous return will be negatively impacted on. And so what this results in is that, the toxins won't be able to get circulated onto the liver as efficiently, but also this can result, if the blood's not pumping around properly, this can result in chronic venous congestion and blood pooling in the lower limbs. The next stage, which is the liver and the gallbladder, and where the toxins enter the bile. So visceroptosis and any nerve disturbances, potentially, they may be due to pelvic tilt, will certainly affect just the general functioning of the liver and the gallbladder. And again, it's just because they're not being held in the position that they should be, and so they're just not working as efficiently. And similar thing with the bowels, the visceroptosis and nerve disturbances can really restrict the peristalsis in the bowel, and therefore this will increase the risk of constipation. And again, just the system is going to get backed up. If you're severely constipated, obviously those toxins, they're not coming out the other end. So, so again, it kind of brings a bit of a halt to that detox process. Now, visceroptosis may also affect the tone and the angle of the puborectalis muscle, which may cause problems with actual defecation, so actual having a poo. Even if that peristaltic movement is functioning, okay, the actual process of pushing it out, may still be affected, just because of the effect of all those, abdominal organs being sort of in the wrong position due to the poor posture, and this will then obviously affect how those puborectalis muscles sit, and then consequently those muscles can't work as well as they should when you go to the toilet. Now, I want to talk a little bit about how massage can help to restore this physiologically efficient posture and therefore aid the detoxification process. Okay, so firstly, it can help to restore the PEP by releasing any myofascial tension and therefore improving the tone of any weakened muscles, which in turn will increase, flexibility of the joints, and strengthen and stabilize, stabilize the joints, strengthens, the muscles, and consequently, our posture will improve. Also, by restoring PEP, it means that massage helps the abdominal organs and the diaphragm return to their normal position, which therefore enables them to function more efficiently. By by assessing for pelvic tilt and correcting any pelvic tilt, massage can take the pressure off any nerves that are being compressed, and just generally will have a calming effect on the nervous system. It also helps, as we know, to stimulate blood and lymph circulation, which will assist the cells, with releasing toxins, and, transporting these toxins onto the liver, where they can be filtered through. Abdominal massage can also assist with peristaltic movement of the bowel, which will further assist in this elimination process and help prevent things like constipation. And certainly if you've seen my previous video on IBS and the effects of abdominal massage, I explain the benefits of abdominal massage, in a little bit more detail. By restoring the PEP, massage also helps to avoid further compensatory measures by the surrounding muscles and joints, which again will cause, if you've got muscles and joints that are overcompensating, that's just going to worsen your postural issues. And by helping to restore the correct position of the ribs and the diaphragm, massage will help to improve those deep breathing patterns, which, improves all of the body's systems and tissues due to improved oxygen intake, which means that you've got more oxygen, getting to the tissues to do the job they need to do. But also, and again, if you've looked at my previous videos on massage for respiratory issues, I talk a lot more about how massage benefits, the breathing process and the diaphragm. So take a look at those. So yeah, short and sweet, but that is really, the effects that bad posture can have on, your body systems as a whole, but particularly on, on the digestive process and that detoxification process. And we all know if your system gets backed up and you're not, if ever you've been, seriously constipated, you get kind of drained of all your energy, you feel tired and you're just not yourself. So, if you, have a postural issue, if we can work on that, and then, that really can improve, your general feeling of well-being as well. So that's really it on this topic. As always, feel free to subscribe to my channel. There are lots of other videos already up. There are more to come. feel free to comment, feel free to contact me with any questions through my Facebook or Instagram pages, which I do believe the link is down below, and I will come back to you. And yeah, that's really it from me for today. So take care, and I will see you next time.